Hello, thanks for joining us. My name is Zoe Baidoo and this is Citi News Daily on Citi TV. Coming up, government recalls the controversial national LPG policy after fierce opposition from stakeholders. You have the details of this and many more stories right here. Stay with us. Straight into our first story, and the Energy Ministry has withdrawn the Draft National LPG policy following massive opposition from some stakeholders. The Tanker Drivers Association was fighting components of the draft policy, saying it will put them out of business and create a monopoly for oil company Puma Energy. The drivers also planned to demonstrate against the government if it did not suspend the policy. The acting chief director of the ministry, Lawrence Apalsi, in a letter cited by Citi News Daily, said after a thorough consideration, his outfit has suspended the policy for further consultations. Here are excerpts read by Citi News Daily, Philip Nilati.
We have taken note of the progress made so far by the ministerial subcommittee formed under the NPA to review the national LPG policy. We have also taken note of the challenges faced by the subcommittee in the completion of its work, as well as the concerns raised by the LPG MCs and Tanker Drivers Union on the policy. In view of the above, the ministry wishes to record the draft national LPG policy for further consultations with all relevant stakeholders, especially LPG MCs and tanker drivers.
Away from that story, the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association has thrown its weight behind the government's decision to give quotas to nursing training schools across the country. The new arrangement means public and private institutions accredited to train nurses in the country will reduce their intake by almost 1,600 this year. This was contained in a directive issued by the Nursing and Midwifery Council to over 70 training schools. There are concerns that this will result in a shortage of nurses across the country, but the president of the association, Kweku Asante-Krobia, disagrees. Now, the Chief Executive Officer of Board, Joseph Boahin Edu, has assured workers of Takoradi-based West African Mills Company, WAMCO, of the reopening of the factory by next month. The factory was shut down 3 years ago over management's inability to pay for supplies from Board, rendering the over 200 workers jobless. Some of the agitated workers who were headed to Accra to petition Parliament over their concerns were involved in a fatal accident which claimed 3 lives. Speaking to residents of Isikadu today, the Board CEO promised 2 more cocoa processing factories to be established in the region. Finally, the former Attorney General Martin Amidu has responded to a petition by 2 National Democratic Congress members calling for sanctions against him. This follows a damning article written by former Chief of Staff Dr. Valerie against Mr. Amidu and former President Jerry John Rawlings, and a subsequent petition asking the party to sanction Mr. Amidu. The petitioners argue Mr. Amidu is constantly dragging the party's name into disrepute and flouting Article 45 of the NDC's constitution. Mr. Amidu, in a rebuttal, said he will defend the constitution of the country rather than defending the NDC and former President Mahama and his surrogates. Here are excerpts of his response.
I was not surprised that the petition followed immediately after Valerie lying, incoherent, disjointed, and drunken-like diatribes against former President Rawlings and me. Clearly the John Mahama faction, their surrogates like Valerie and the petitioners who admit to being failed parliamentary candidates at the last elections and other mentors within the NDC think they can frighten core NDC members like myself with threats of disciplinary action. I will rather defend the 1992 Constitution than be intimidated by John Mahama, Woyome, and their surrogates' unconstitutional petitions. I will continue to always put Ghana first before party, as demanded by the 1992 Constitution.
Meanwhile, the National Democratic Congress, NDC, has told Citi News Daily that former Attorney General Martin Amidu will soon be hauled before the party's executive committee to answer for some allegations leveled against him. And that will be all for today's edition of Citi News Daily on Citi TV. My name is Zoe Baidoo. Do make a date to that same time tomorrow. Thanks for watching.